What do we make of the word gammon? I don't know. Is it a bit like yoon?
Well, it's not like yoon in that it's specifically targeted at people who are white and got a big red face. I mean, I think it is a bit racist. It's also funny.
I think
so. I'm a bit conflicted about it, but also
I think it's very
not
funny.
bothered.
It's more that they're big, red, angry faces rather than their skin colour, I would say.
Who's allowed to use the word gammon? Is it specifically just like, you know, us white men?
Penalty gammon.
Potential future gammons, are they allowed?
People that are racist and susceptible to sunburn. Is that?
But see, sunburn, that's gammons all natural reaction.
Oh, right, okay.
Not an external force you're going to have.
Just raging.
That's a natural skin tone.
It might be the studio lights, you know, the question time lighting.
Is gammon a verb or a noun?
You could be gammoning about town, shouting.
Total.
By the immigrants. I saw a great, you know, the classic, it's the 9 picture, the 9 heads on question time. Someone had animated it, and so all their faces are kind of in an angry unison.
Imagine if you were one of them and like you had to go into your workplace, know that you're one of the famous 9, the Gammon Shaman 9. You know what? If I was a journalist, right, I'd try and get the fucking Gammon 9, you know, in a pub. I'd try and get them all together. So can we have the Gammon hour? Yeah, let's do question time with them on the fucking panel. The great reverse question time.
The problem here is like you make gammon acceptable and they then reclaim gammon themselves. And it becomes like a therapy started gammon party.
Gammon will be a
Gammon Pride.
Gammon Pride.
Gammon History Month. Looking forward to that.
International Gammon Day. The Gammon Rights Movement.
History of great gammons throughout the year.
Who was the first gammon? I'm going to say Churchill.
He's the L. Ron Hubbard of gammonism. It's Nigel Farage gammon. He's definitely part of the wider gammon community.
Yes.
Yeah, prophet of the gammons.
Do you know what he is? Do you ever see that? There's a tweet he put out on Christmas Day, and it's him in like a really depressing small kitchen with a really small telly, having a really depressing looking beer. That is Pete Gammon in a picture.
That is Pete Gammon. That is, I am dead inside. You know,
that's a wee shame.
It was too sad to fully laugh at, I found.
It was kind of like Hitler looking at himself in the mirror and realising what he'd become. I wonder if anyone's done a kind of David Attenborough style dub talking about gammons yet. That kind of like wildlife documentary. If you get some footage of like these EDL rallies and just go like, I do see the gammon in a natural habitat. Has it gone mainstream yet as like your last leg type discussion show? Has it brought up the gammon, or is gammon purely in the realm of social media at the moment?
It's a Twitter.
It seems to just be a Twitter thing so far. Anyway, someone who doesn't use Twitter, if you started talking about there goes a gammon, they're just going to be like, what are you talking? You know, his big red face. They're like, you can't see that. It's just a man. You're like, no, there's layers to it. There's layers.
Do they have to have the skin colour? I've definitely met gammons that aren't gammon.
No, I think you can have gammon characteristics, definitely.
Because Nigel Farage isn't got the tone of a gammon, but he's got the mentality of a gammon.
You're probably not allowed into the inner circle if you're not the proper gammon face.
Pure gammon.
I imagine they're quite strict about that kind of thing.
I think you have to be at the very least mildly xenophobic. I think that's the kind of entry point.
See, your classic gammon, do they actually use the internet and social media? Like the ones, your classic big red-faced.
I think your gammons, they use, like, in the way that, like, you bought your gammon iPad for his Christmas, and he opened a Facebook account with his terrible selfie as his picture, where he's got a big gammon face. And then he's just liked things with Union Jacks in it, and Britain First happened to be one of them, and that's why he thinks like a gammon now. David Coburn, is he gammon?
Yeah.
Oh, he's absolutely gammon.
Yeah. He's just a bit mad though in general, don't he?
Aye.
Do
you remember that time he just like photobombed an interview in Channel 4 and just stood eerily in the background? It was in like the European Parliament, and this woman's conducting like an interview with some other member of the Parliament, just having a chat back and forth. And David Coburn just randomly comes into shot on Channel 4 and stands and just stares into the camera. It was one of the strangest things I've ever seen.
He must be on a good salary, sure, an EU politician. But he got a good bit of money.
So you can get paid good money for that.
Well-plated salaries and everything.
So pretend you're a gammon, get voted by UKIP.
If you had good money in gammon.
Just go live in Brussels on your nice salary.
Huh?
turn up once a month. Oh yeah, I'm a gammon.
The irony is, Farage and all these guys will be making coin forever, like off their pensions.
It's, he came out and said, why would I give up my pension? He was like, because you fucking hate Europe. That's out of principle.
Gotta keep funding the gammons. I wonder if you can grow them in your garden. Grow a gammon. Plant a gammon seed that grows into this horrible, bigoted, fat, ugly mess of a human who then gets a Twitter account.
So what's the Scottish independence version of a gammon?
That's...
Because we do have legend.
Let's think about that.
Look at the shape of that weather map in the BBC. I'm pure raging.
I think because they live online. The gammon is out in the world. The gammon roams free range. Whereas the Scottish nationalists tend to be more a wee bit internet centric.
You notice how many of them have got like 100k plus tweets? It's like, how do you have time to tweet that much? What are you tweeting?
These people have wasted half their fucking adult life tweeting absolute bollocks, and it's always been between 45 and 50% regardless of what they've
I
done.
know, the opinion polls have not fucking changed, have they? They're finding the same.
I think it's actually worse than that. I think they actually put a lot of people off. That whole attitude.
It's putting you off. If
It's not winsome at all. You're not like winning folk over by shouting at them and calling them idiots.
Sometimes I've tweeted something which is like 90% pretty hardcore Scottish independence, and you'll get the odd reply from one or two. It's like, aye, this could have been more. Aye, but you should have said this more. And you're like, what do you want from me? Leave me alone. Go away. And it's someone that doesn't even follow you. It's just someone that's latched onto like a words or a hashtag. And you're like, go away.
Yeah, they have a go at me for like not being like pro SNP sometimes. They're like, mate, I'm a libertarian. What do you expect? My whole thing is like criticising the government. They're the government.
Sometimes, they're so obsessed with the indie ref too. I don't even think they care too much about Scottish independence, that they just want something to do. Like, there's a vacuum in their life.
Yeah. I think a better way to think about it was like when you're talking about politics online or whatever, is like you're trying to find out the things that you are wrong about that you didn't realise.
Yeah.
You're trying to you're sticking stuff out there and you'll get some criticisms or whatever, and some of them, vast majority might be bollocks, but it might be something you're like, oh, actually that's right. And if you take it in that kind of spirit where it's like more a bit self-discovery than to try and convince other people about, stuff,
I think
and it's more interesting, more fun. You get to talk to people who are maybe not in your sphere, who maybe disagree with you and stuff. That's the most interesting stuff I found online.
I don't think anyone in the room is in the echo chamber. I don't think our accounts are echo chamber friendly accounts. I think we're too fucking mad to fit in. But you can see people that very much are the echo chamber accounts that all talk to each other and retweet each other like mindlessly and all that. And that's quite...
Yeah, I kind of worry I've become more contrarian just because I'm trying to not fall into Twitter echo chamber. So much so that my brother the other week was like, what the fuck's happened to you?
Yeah.
All you do is play devil's advocate. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm out in the real world now. I think it is healthy to have, it's not to have a different opinion, it's just to challenge your own, and then if it reaffirms it, then fine, but you should try and keep your eyes open for other viewpoints.
It's just very difficult to be in no, that's a lie. It's not difficult at all. It's actually, I hate when people talk like that. It's really hard being on the internet. Turn it off. Yeah. You no time for that shit whatsoever. But when you're putting stuff out, it's actually quite a reasoned thing. Then underneath in the comments, you've got the pile that occurs where they're all forcing their point of view through, and it's all bollocks, and that's a bit annoying.
I think all those Twitter arguments, they tend to be blown out of proportion because the people who complain are either already famous or they're like a journalist, and so they're getting a disproportionate amount of people having a go at them, whereas your average person doesn't really get that. So when they hear about Twitter abuse and all that, they're like, what are you talking about? I've not had that. And I think actually journalists annoy me a little bit because I'm like, yeah, you wrote got a provocative title there, and then someone's tweeted you and you've promoted it on your own Twitter account. Like, I'm not saying you should have abuse. I'm saying if someone comes back and has criticism, it's like, well, you're on an open...
I'm going to defend abuse. So here's a take, right? If you're in a situation where you're selling yourself, you have made yourself the product, and your product is shite. Like, Katie Hopkins' product is Katie Hopkins. That is the brand that she is selling. Do we not have the right to say, your brand's shite? And I think the difference with journalists is that journalists can't quite accept that they are a brand. They are selling themselves, as in the brand, this particular writer or this journalist, what is selling them, what is making them money, is their name and their opinion and their take. And do you know what I mean? It's a weird line where, like, I say if someone's attacking Katie Hopkins because she is a woman, I don't think that's okay. But if you say Katie Hopkins, you're a fucking arsehole, I'm like, that's fine. I don't have a problem with that.
Like, Katie Hopkins, she's not going to get abuse because she's a woman. The abuse she'll get will be, like, she'll have written an article saying, let all the immigrants and refugees drown.
But
so her abuse comes from people calling her heartless.
Yeah, but I think that's where the line with this to me gets blurred often with a lot of journalists that go like, I'm being abused. Well, it's like, yes and no, because if you're being abused for what you're saying and what your brand is, what you're selling, I think that's actually all right. If you're getting abused because you are black or because you are a woman or whatever else, that I think is a problem, because then you're generalising that to multiple people. You're not actually making it about the individual you're attacking. You're saying it's about this type of human that I dislike.
What I don't like is that any kind of journalist to put an article out and it'll be quite a touchy subject and some people are going to have feedback. Then their following article is like, look at the abuse I got on Twitter because of my last article.
Yes.
And I feel the same. Nobody gives a fuck. I know it's important to you. I'm sure it causes mental strain when you've got 20 messages that I kind of sympathise, but I don't want to fucking read about it in your next article. Like, no one cares. It doesn't affect your average person.
Yeah. Because if you're being abused for, like, your shite opinions, like, I mean, if I say something in my office that's, like, bollocks, if the office go, Chris, you're an arsehole, you're talking bollocks, I think that's fine. If they go, like, because you're, have the skin tone, that's different.
What about Gammons, though? I've not been doing that to Gammons, though, this whole time.
You're right, but we're mocking, whilst you're correct, we're bullying them for physical appearance, but it's because they have a horrible attitude and they hate everyone.
Is abuse okay when it's aimed at a certain kind of person?
If it's Tories, fuck them.
So that's just what I'm saying. It's like the abuse thing is a very weird thing where you will see a lot of journalists that will whinge, oh, this is so bad, the abuse. And they will follow people that will regularly say that Tories fuck dogs and they're all cunts and all this type of thing.
People have chosen, they've looked at what the Tories have done and they've went, that's what I'm about. Whereas, like, if you're a woman or gay, it's not a choice. You can't be attacked for that.
Well, to pick an example, there was the national front page where they had Theresa May as Cruella de Vil, and some folk were saying, well, this is, terrible because this is a constant trope that women get thrown at them, that they're kind of witches and, like, bad, evil. If you're an older woman, you're portrayed as this kind of horrible witch.
Well, what was the context? Why was she Cruella de Vil?
Because she looks like Cruella de Vil.
Then if that was all it was, and there wasn't some Dalmatian-based Tory policy that was being discussed, then I don't think that's I don't think that's right.
But like a few weeks earlier, they had Michael Gove as like an alien. So it was like they have a history of doing these kind of weird.
Weird how you stop. Like, was spitting image in the 80s, was that abuse, or is it
I mean,
satire of
use like people's personal appearance. Like if you were small,
Yeah.
you're portrayed as like a wee mouse character. If you had a wee bit of a lisp, they would take fun of that.
I think that knowing that how much I've laughed at things like how The Simpsons have parodied folk, how South Park have dealt with issues, I'm in no position at all to lecture anyone on that type of shit. I'm fully aware of, like, if people were offended by it, fuck them. Like, I don't care. Like, that is, I think, part and parcel of it. If you're so egotistically driven that you think you can dictate to other people how they should live their lives, you're well in the fucking firing line for getting lampooned. And I think it's okay. And I think journalists should also accept it. I think where it's wrong is if, like, the National had picked on Theresa May because she had a vagina. That was what they were targeting repeatedly. Every cover had to do with that, or everything was attack on black people or something like that. That's when I would go, now this is generalizing to humans. Attacking individuals, I'm like, I'm for that. I shouldn't say that because I'm now welcoming like a flood of hate, but I don't know how else to approach it, because what else do you do? Do you censor everybody? Do we kill comedy? Like, how does it work? How do you make fun of people now?
If it's an individual on social media, there's an aspect of, like, they can go into their pocket at any time and they're just receiving abuse over and over again. Whereas if it's a political cartoon in a paper, it's not targeted, it's not directly at you.
But it's not green lighting the abuse. If the National are on a cover that says, you're Cruella de Vil, you're a puppy killer, does that not mean people then tweet Theresa May, ha, Cruella de Vil, puppy killer? Is it not connected in the sense that it's okay? What I'm trying to weigh up is how comes the satire of, say, South Park is acceptable and we all like it, but when it's deployed on an internet forum for some reason, cross line now.
I think context does matter. Yeah, I think that is important. You know, if you're doing it, it's not like a tweet you just fire off, you know, to your 100 followers. I think it's as crucial as like someone who's like, you know, printing a front cover of a
So you say like
newspaper. Lots of people are going to see, but like, you know, the law doesn't really take that into consideration. If you're a guy who's like tweeting to 10 folk, you know, and they don't like it, you can still be arrested for doing something offensive.
It's also just this, like, you know, in comedy, you have to punching up and punching down. Like, if you're on a stage, like, a comedian can attack the Prime Minister because of the Prime Minister, but you wouldn't go overboard attacking some guy in the front row.
Well, there's a quite an interesting case just now with the guy who got his dog to like see Kyle on video and he put it on YouTube.
Count Dankula.
Yeah.
Aye.
And
Is the guy's name on Twitter, isn't it? Count Dankula?
Count Dankula, yeah. So, I mean, he's kind of an arsehole, you know? It's like,
Oh, no, yes, he's absolutely wang.
am I taking that kind of stuff where you like, you know, you're LARPing or whatever, you're kind of live action role playing some kind of like, you know, offensive character or something. You know, if you do something ironically, it's the same as doing it, you know, not ironically. If you shag a goat ironically, you're still a goat shagger. You know, it doesn't make you any less of an arsehole, the fact you're doing it for a joke. But the whole legal thing is like quite an interesting situation, you know, like why should someone be actually at risk of going to jail for, you know, just words or, you know, just a joke thing?
And what's his defense that he did this as part of a character?
Yeah, it was just a joke that he'd done to piss off his girlfriend, you know, because she's apparently some kind of like social justice warrior type person and like thought it'd be funny to get his dog to do the most offensive thing he could possibly think of. So he obviously knew it was offensive. It's not as if he was saying this is good. You know, I'm doing this because I'm really into Hitler and I want my dog to be a Nazi. It's because he knew it'd be offensive because it's wrong.
I did think, I saw the picture of him getting like taken out of his flat with like 3 policemen. And you're kind of going, is this proportionate to what he's done?
Yeah, I felt very much like, oh, that's not that funny. But then the reaction to it was like, oh, fuck, he didn't deserve that.
But then he's also this alt-right poster boy arsehole, so I'm not going to defend him.
I think he's going to become that. You know, that's
What I was going to say is that the result of this thing.
call it the Streisand effect, where, you know, the whole thing is like created this big, massive thing. He's made famous now because of this. That's the trouble being a libertarian. You are always defending people who are arseholes, who are doing stuff that you don't like. You just like constantly try to defend rights for people who like you disagree with what they're doing. We're like, you should still be allowed to do that.
What's the worst abuse you've had online?
Something like unionist drivel dog, I think, is one of my favourites that I've been referred to, which doesn't make any fucking sense because if you read any tweet, there's nothing that backs that up. Russian fucker and stuff like this. And yeah, a lot of it seems to have been since I spoke out on the RT thing, that's been done for a lot of people.
But the thing is, all the gammons would have given up with you years ago because they knew, like, you're just Scottish nationalist. But all these other salmons have felt let down by you because you have not 100% followed all of their views to the market.
That's exactly it. It said the Britnat thing is very much like you will still get them occasionally. They'll bink in, they'll say some shite, and they'll fuck off. They're quite harmless. Whereas like the Nats are they're very vindictive. Like when they feel wronged, they will really dig in, even on quite a casual level. You know, kind of hijacking shit on the hashtags and stuff like that. Like Nicola Sturgeon out beat the Queen on that Sky News poll. But that in itself is kind of an example of like the Gammon wouldn't do that. The Gammon are like off down the pub, whereas they're like, make sure Nicola wins.
I've logged 12 times on it already.
You know, I've logged into a different account, and you're going back on one level, like you're going good, Nicola won, but another level you're like, it's a bit cringe. Get a life, guys. Come on.
You do get a feeling a lot of these folk are like, you know, hopeless shut-ins. They just never leave the house. Like constantly tweeting. They've all get like over 100k tweets. They're all like just constantly on there.
Have you seen that thing? It's the Saturday Night Live where William Shatner, the sketch where he goes to like the Star Trek convention, just does the whole like, you've all travelled from thousands of miles to be here, and I just want to say to you all, get a life.